crossing the ditch to Australia, my Aussie correspondent, Craig Heilmann. Craig, you got the joy in the GC today?
I've got invincible joy, mate. But look, I've got to be honest. I want to give credit and eat humble pie for the performance of the Kiwis at the Olympics, mate. I mean, the Aussies went to the Olympics to compete against the world. New Zealand went to compete against Australia, and you beat us. Simple as that.
Exactly. And look, we didn't get as many medals as you guys, but we got more medals than we ever did beforehand. And seriously, Lisa Carrington has got as many gold medals as Usain Bolt. Just saying. I mean, that's pretty impressive, right?
It's incredible for a little country to have such champions. So, no, God bless it. I think it's amazing.
Oh, what a humble man you are. Are you sure you're Aussie? Anyway, talking, though, today about faith from different perspectives in Australia and, faith hitting the headlines there, unfortunately, a lot of it for all the wrong reasons. Wanting to start with a story that you and I have talked about beforehand, the tragic story is it Wambula?
Wambula,
yeah, exactly. What's the background on this story, Craig?
Yeah, look, the police went out to look at some people who were sort of, on their radar screen during the COVID period, potentially for breaking COVID restrictions or whatever. When they got there, they were ambushed by this husband and wife team and his brother. They're called the Train family.
Yeah.
We're doing the inquest right now. It's a couple of years later, and we're trying to understand why they did what they did, and we're also trying to understand the police actions as well. But basically, the police got ambushed by an apocalyptic cult. Yeah. These people thought of themselves as Christians. They believed that the end of the world was nigh. In fact, they believed it was happening during the COVID period. And therefore, they saw themselves as in a sort of a religious war, an apocalyptic war against the devil, and saw the police as the devil or agents of the devil, and thought it was okay to shoot them and kill them. Now, of course, they ended up dead themselves, so that's why we're doing the whole inquest. But look, horrible story. And the media, of course, runs with these sorts of things to say, well, there's a lot of this sort of nasty online recruiting of Christians for violent acts. Actually, there isn't. Obviously there are nut jobs everywhere, but there really isn't a lot of Christians out there trying to kill police or trying to kill anyone for that matter.
Yeah, but the headline, of course, typically reads, "Look, religion's terrible. Religious extremism is causing all of these problems in that regard." On a perhaps a not dissimilar story, but not on the Christian faith, I understand a Muslim cleric is saying that Muslims in Australia should take no part in the democracy of Australia.
No, that's right. So his is that God makes laws, not human beings, and that if Muslims were to be involved in any way in voting in the democracy or running a political party, that would be a breach of the fact that God makes rules. What you want, he says, is a perfect system that can only come from God. Well, if you wanted to know what a theocratic mindset looks like, this is it in spades. He does not believe in democracy. I'm not 100% sure what he's doing in Australia because it is a democracy, but he doesn't like democracy. He wants a theocracy. He's never raised the question in his own mind, how do Muslims even interpret their own law? He's just convinced it dropped whole as bowlers from heaven, and it's very easy to apply in any context you're in.
Now, you were talking beforehand about how, it's easy to go, oh, gosh, all people are like this. So this particular individual, perhaps not a fair representation of most Muslims living in Australia.
No, funny enough, in this case, the papers have interviewed the Indonesian ambassador and said, how do you feel about it? You run a large Muslim country.
Yeah.
And he said, well, Australian democracy, things can be awful while still being lawful. That was his reply. And I thought he's bang on the money, but he said, look, no, we wouldn't operate this way in Indonesia. We think pluralism is a good thing, and we think it's the only thing that's going to work for all of us on the planet. And look, at one level, I get it, but I think that's a good correction from one Muslim to another. It avoids us having to step into the middle of that activity. But it does show you some of the people that are immigrating into these countries in the West, not just Australia, but lots of different Western countries, hold extremely different views and probably don't share the values of democracy.
To be fair, Craig, some of the comments that you've made about the current Australian government, I wondered if you were against it as well, but glad to hear.
I do that in the name of democracy.
Exactly. Now, faith and the so-called rainbow community a bit dismayed about some recent changes. What's the situation here, Craig?
Yeah, so Andrew, there's two governments in a row in Australia that have promised to solve the problem of the dispute between Christian and secular sexual ethics, and it really has to do with employment, particularly things like Christian schools.
Yeah.
For example, if you want to have a maths teacher, and the person that applies is transgender, and that's not really according to your code of ethics as a Christian, can you ban that? But can you just simply say, I'm not hiring you because you're transgender?
Yep.
I'll hire even a less qualified mathematician for this role. And the last government said they would solve it, and Albo said he would solve it, and now he's walked away from it. He's completely ditched it and said, oh, sorry, it's too late in our term agenda to do anything about this. So, of course, I think actually both sides are up in arms about it because they really want it resolved. Obviously, we may never get on the same page on this issue. But, right now the LGBTQ community are speaking out from their side going, how dare you let us down in this way? You promised us. And Albo has let them down, no doubt about it.
Well, hey, maybe unity has been achieved here. Your current Prime Minister has brought unity between the rainbow community and Christian schools. They both agree that they don't like him.
They both agree that Albo has let them down on different sides of the issue. That's quite an achievement, by the way. That's why you get to be Prime Minister.
It is. He needs a Nobel Peace Prize. We'll need something, that's for sure. Now, just wrapping up on this one, it's easy to point the finger, as we say, at different faith groups. But hey, if you don't like what's happening, you could always buy your own church, and not just the church, but the graveyard that goes with it. It looks tempting to me online, Craig.
You've heard about the pub with no beer, mate. This is the church with no roof, but it does have a graveyard. You can buy it. It's in South Australia in a place called Bald Hills. Yeah. This church was closed down in 1905.
Oh,
and believe it or not, 3 weeks later, the roof had gone from the church, and it now populates a shearing shed down the road. That's where the roof went to house the shearing of sheep. So 1905 they closed it. It's a bit of a ruin, but you do get the cemetery, and you can buy it for $300,000 or $400,000. I'm not sure you'll be allowed to turn it into a house, but you will be responsible to look after the graveyard. So there you go. If you've got a spare $300,000, that's for you.
I'm quite happy to grab it as long as I can go down to the shearing shed down the road and say, "Oi, mate, I want my roof back."
My roof back. Exactly. Well, it's probably a good roof, mate. It might have been lead for all we know. Lead's worth a bit today.
Yeah, they've probably melted it down and sold it for something else. But Craig, always great to chat with you. Thanks for joining us today.
God bless, Andrew. Take care, mate. See you soon.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.